everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and I want to talk about my top 10 deduction games from 2024. I know! Deduction games. It's one of my favorite categories where you're trying to figure something out. You know what I'm finding? A lot of people like this. With the popularity of Wordle, and that people trying to deduce every day what a 5-letter word is, I knew that this is the kind of genre that maybe you might enjoy, and I would be happy to have a single game come out over the course of the year, let alone 10 of them. And that's me not even including an honorary mention, which would be Things and Rings, because you are trying to sort of deduce. You don't have to. You're just playing cards, which is why I didn't make the list, but it's a pretty close contender for it. So here we go, my 10 favorite deduction games. First, we have Temple Code. It's from Banky's Edition. The designer of it is Johan Levet, who is one of the two designers of Turing Machine. In Temple Code, think of it as a mastermind style game. You have three symbols on the temple in front of you, colors, what have you, and you are trying to figure out what they are. Each turn, you'll pick a card in front of someone else. Everyone has two cards in front of them. You take one card, they take the other. You take your card, put it above your card, which you can't see, but everyone else can see, and it will tell you if you have symbols in the right spot and the right color, but wrong spot. And then you have a piece of paper, you try to figure it out. Once you figure it out, you tell everyone what your answer is. If you're correct, you put another card in, you get two cards right, you win. So it's pretty simple. It's close to Mastermind. There's a little bit of who do I pick a card in front of? I want to pick this card, but that card's going to give you a lot of information. It's a little lucky, which is why it's lower on the list. But if you want to play a more simpler deduction game, it is fun. That's Temple Code. Number 9 is Find Finley from Fat Brains. So Find Finley is a big map of an amusement park, all sorts of things going on, and it comes with these cases. In each case, you will be working on as you get these cards, and we'll say, well, Finley was seen at 7 o'clock using the bathroom over here. And you're like, okay, so over here's the bathroom at 7 o'clock. So that was at 5 o'clock is at the merry-go-round. So he went from here to here, and you're trying to figure out Finley's path and figure out where he's hiding right now. So if you like Where's Waldo, but you're not necessarily finding Waldo on this map, you're trying to use the clues to figure out where he is, you will enjoy Find Finley. Number 8 is the search for UAPs. Which this name really threw me off at first, and I found that UAP, which is an unidentified alien phenomenon or something like that, it's the new code for UFO, which I don't know if that's ever going to catch on, but maybe it will. This is the third in the trilogy, which was with the search for Planet X and the search for the lost species, although this is designed by Ted Osbach and co-produced by Bezier Games and Renegade Games. It is possibly the least interesting of the three of that trilogy, but again, that's almost faint. I'm not trying to put it down for that because it is fun. It is a game where you're going to get information and you're trying to figure out using these clues that you get. Everyone has an app. You're going to use the clues to figure out exactly where this alien phenomenon happened by canceling things out. Sometimes a clue will be given to everyone, but oftentimes you're going to be going and getting a specific thing, and there's rules in the games, and the rules will change over the course of the game. It's closer probably to the first one, Search for Planet X, both in theme and in how it plays. But if you like a game that really rewards very crunchy deduction, you'll like the Search for UAPs. Number 7 is Intent to Kill. This is a 2-player game in which one person is a murderer. And there's kind of a city with a bunch of people there from all different genres, and one of them is the murderer. And one of them is the informant, a group of informants. And as the game goes back and forth, the murderer is going to slowly start murdering people. And they have to follow, though, their reason that they're murdering. They might be a psychopath, so they only kill people not in an area next to where they were before. They have a reason, and the detective is trying to narrow it down, go, okay, well, they were next to that person, and that person died, and now the murderer might be this person over here. They're moving people around. So there's some interesting back and forth as the one person's trying to narrow down who that detective is, and the other person making it as hard for them as possible, but that other person is using deduction to find it. So that's why it's my number 7, Intent to Kill. Number 6 is AI Space Puzzle. This is a cooperative deduction game in which one person cannot talk. They are trying to get people to put astronauts into the correct spots. There also might be dice with those astronauts that are at a certain number. And all the person who has are these tiles. And they're going to put these tiles out each turn and then reveal them. And everyone looks at those tiles and says, well, they put the tiles this way. So that means this goes here. and the person who put them out is just keeping their mouth shut, not saying anything, going, come on. But you have to use deduction onto what that person meant when they told it to you. And you have to use good logic skills as you're trying to give clues to your team. It's a pretty hard game, actually. After you play for a while, you might get to know if I put this tile next to this tile, that's what that means. But I found it to be a very enjoyable game, AI Space Puzzle. Now we're at the top 5 of my deduction games. And I got to say, folks, these are some of the 5 best deduction games of all time, let alone this year. Here we go. Number 5 is Expressions from Barn-Made Games. Expressions is a game in which there's going to be a deck of cards handed out to everybody, and you are basically playing cooperative, deductive, old maid, go fish, what have you. You're trying to guess what cards are in other people's hands. On your turn, you can give a clue as to what card is in your hand. I might be like, this 6 of blue is the highest blue in my hand. Great. We just got a negative point on our final score, but we have to give information out to each other. But now I know that you don't have the 7, the 8, and the 9 of that color, of that blue. So, and I know I don't have them. And since we're playing a 3-player game, it must be John. Although there are a few cards that are in nobody's hands sometimes, so you have to keep that in mind too. It's a lot of fun trying to figure out where the cards are. You're working together and slowly figuring out exactly what's in people's hands. And I like that. It uses some concepts from the trick-taking game, The Crew, but it's its own game, Expressions, from Barn-Made Games. Number 4, I mentioned Johan Levet at the very beginning, making the game Temple Code. Well, he was one of the designers of Turing Machine. The other designer, Fabian Gradel, and Johan worked together to make a new game called Chronologic. And this is the first game in a series. And in this game, think of this as an amazing version of Clue. Because in Chronologic, you're going to have these rooms here. It's like an opera house or a theater or something like that. And there's different cases that will happen. And you will ask a question each turn by using 2 cards. You put them together. It will give you a piece of information that only you know. But it will also give a piece of information that will tell everybody something. Like I'll say, how many people were in the ballroom at 5 o'clock? And it will say, there were 3. I tell everyone there were 3 people. But my clue says, and one of them was this specific person. It is very fun. It's very interesting. And the first one, you're trying to figure out who murdered someone. In the second one, I forget that there's another thing in the second one. The third one, someone stole jewels and is passing them around. And each one has multiple cases. They're one-time play cases, although you can print more off the internet. But they will provide you with a lot of very strong deduction gaming. That's Chronologic. Number 3 is Bomb Busters from Pegasus Games. In Bomb Busters, you're trying to defuse a bomb, again, cooperatively. And you each have a bunch of the wires that are numbered in front of you. And you are, as the game goes by, trying to figure out, you'll say, I have a number 7 and you have a number 7. And we're giving each other some very mild clues, even by the way we're asking and who we're asking and what we're saying to other people to figure out exactly who has wires. There's some wires, there's a red wire you never want to cut. There's yellow wires that are trickier to cut. And the game actually has, I think, 60 more different ways to play. I just mentioned one way to play, and there's just so much involved in this game. It is so fun, and it also has that tenseness of let's not blow up this bomb. That's Bomb Busters from Pegasus. Number 2 is Spectral from Bitewing. Spectral is an interesting deduction game that I think for some people might be lower on the list. For me, it's pretty high. But Spectral has an idea of area majority. So over the course of this game, you're going to be looking sometimes at tiles on the board, and that tile is going to give you a clue as to where point tokens are going to show up. And you are also putting down tokens next to these tiles to control the tiles. And where the point tokens line up at the end of the game, this time says the point token is going to be directly across from it. But then also on that one, there's a negative point token at something else sent that way. You don't know for sure, but you're trying to figure out where the point tokens are. And then you also want to have area control around these tokens to get the most points. I really find this to be fascinating. There's even a bit of induction as you're watching what other people do and trying to feel out from it. I find it very neat. This is from Bitewing Games. It's a game that kind of flew under the radar for a lot of people, but I really like Spectral, my number 2. My number 1 is from All Play Games, called A Message from the Stars. This is another cooperative one, and I love this game. The theme of it is An alien is coming down and trying to communicate with humans, but we really can't communicate very well. So what's happening is you are giving words back and forth to each other, and there are certain letters at the beginning of the game that are randomly chosen that will have numeric values attached to them. So I might get the word, lollipop, and that word is worth 3 points. And I'm like, well, there are 3 L's in it, so maybe L is worth 1 point each. But it also might be P is worth 1 point. There's 2 P's at the end, and O is worth 1 point. But you're going to give words back and forth, trying to figure out which letters are the ones that give points. But also these words also need to be clues to answer a little bit of some synonym matching at the end of the game, which stops you from just giving out any old word. And this is just a really great game, back and forth, very thinky again. But if you like games like Wordle, and I think, and you also does like the slightest bit of math, it's not particularly difficult math, but using mathematical deduction mixed with Wordle deduction makes me very happy. This combination is just superb, which makes A Message from the Stars my favorite deduction game that came out in 2024. I love this genre, and if you like deduction games, you have so much to look forward to. So check these out. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vasel, and this is the Dice Tower. Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video from the Dice Tower. Hey, you want to learn more about us, communicate with us? We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord channel, lots of different ways to get involved with the Dice Tower. You can find that in our Linktree link below. So just click that, it will take you and you can communicate with us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups. There's lots of cool things that you can find and become part of the Dice Tower. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vasel.